So my name is Taryn-Lee and I am a learning and development facilitator at the company Mango 5. So there are different ways to kind of assess CVs, but I think the most common way that most companies use, larger companies, because they're receiving thousands of applications, they use something that is known as an ATS. So this stands for Applicant Tracking System. So recruiters use this in the same way that we would use filters in online shopping. So let's say you want something that's locally produced, you want it under a certain price range, and all the different items pop up. It's the same for the ATS. A recruiter or a hiring manager will place the skills and the qualifications that they are looking for, and based on that, certain candidates then pass through. So I can provide you with some tips with regards to red flags. So this is considered things that recruiters do not want to see in your resume. So one of these things is unemployment or employment gaps. So this is large periods of time where you are not working. That's not a huge red flag, but sometimes recruiters can be hesitant for candidates that are unemployed. Another thing, which is very sad but happens, is age discrimination. So for example, if it says that you matriculated in the 1800s, they're probably not going to want to recruit you, so we need to work on kind of hiding that we're older than we are. Another thing which I think is very important is longevity. So if you go from one company to the next with 6 months at each company, somebody that's looking for a long-term role is not going to take you for that position. So try to show that you actually are loyal to a company in your work experience. And then also kind of hobbies and interests and references. You want to leave those out unless they specifically ask for them, because your CV should actually be 1 to 2 pages in length, because hiring managers spend about 10 to 15 seconds looking over your document. So you want to make sure that the good stuff is right in the beginning and that we don't have to spend 6 pages to find out why you are good for our company. And then just one last thing with what they look for, that depends on the role that they're asking for. So if you really want to see what you should have in your CV, look at the job advertisement itself, look at the keywords, the skills and requirements. That should be in your CV, obviously, if you have those skills. Don't lie about it, because you're going to get to the job and then you're not going to know what to do with the things that you've said you can do. I think that, again, depends on the company that you're applying to. So smaller companies might not use things like LinkedIn to source, and larger companies would, but I promise you it would hardly be the case that they're only dependent on LinkedIn. They might source through their own website, or they might use other kind of sourcing companies to source candidates for them. But LinkedIn is definitely very popular. Currently, at the beginning of 2022, it has 830 million users, and 58 million of those are registered companies. And South Africa makes up about 9 million of those 830 million, so I think that's a lot of people. So from that, we can assume that companies would use that to source candidates. And obviously, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, that company can't source you, so you're never going to show up on their radar. So I definitely think in this day and age, it's beneficial to have a online presence as well as a physical copy for both smaller and larger companies. The first thing, complete your profile fully. I've seen so many people that just have their name and maybe where they studied. Put in all of the experience you have, anything that's small. Make sure that you actually add your duties as well as your accomplishments to that experience. Give a bit of a background about yourself, say why you'd be good to work at a company, but also only include content that is relevant to your goal, because you don't want to waffle on about you. You want to talk about your skills. You also want to make sure that you include any education as well as training. Another thing you can also make sure that you do is your profile picture should be professional and friendly. So you don't want to have a serious face, but you also don't want to have a Snapchat filter. You want to make sure that it looks like an ID photo or a passport photo, nice headshot, plain background, formal attire, and try to smile because it makes you seem like you're more inviting. This can also then be used for your CV. If the company requires it, it's definitely not a must-have to have your picture on your CV. Other than that, you can also use recommendations. That's something that LinkedIn mentions. So if a manager can give you a good recommendation, it shows that you're pleasant to work with. And then maybe some last 2 points. You can make sure that you connect with people. It makes you more present on LinkedIn, and also follow companies so that you can see what jobs they're advertising, because without that you're not going to know. And lastly, make sure that your grammar and spelling is good, because that shows that you have attention to detail, and companies love attention to detail. So you want to make sure that you give your content a read through, just to check that the grammar and the spelling is accurate, and also make sure that your content is relevant to your career aspiration. And the reason for this is that you want people to see immediately why they should have you, instead of read a page and wonder, should I actually contact you for an interview?